Good afternoon to you. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack here. Wednesday now, the second day of October 2024. So glad you tuned in this afternoon. Going to talk about this really active pattern. Early October now, seems more like early September, late August, something like that. We've got Kirk, and that's a really late bloomer for so far east. Pretty rare to have something out that way. Then we've got TD number 13. That'll eventually become Leslie. And yes, we are still watching the Western Caribbean, Gulf of Mexico, Bay of Campeche area. Don't want to worry people too much. It doesn't look like we're going to see anything particularly focused, but that is in terms of wind and storm surge and low pressures, that kind of thing. We will have some impacts from whatever is developing. It does not need a name. Even a potential tropical cyclone can bring a lot of problems, as we saw couple weeks ago in southeast North Carolina. It has just not been a good month for North Carolina, has it? So yes, we do have to watch for the potential of very heavy rain for Florida. But I want to make sure people understand, because there are some, rumors or whatever, misinformation and just bad information. Nothing is coming over the next week to 10 days that is going to make its way up into the deep south and the southern Appalachians. That's not happening. The models don't show it. The pattern doesn't favor it. So just cut that off right there at the head. Not going to happen. It is going to happen, however, a lot of heavy rain, again, for our friends down in the Sunshine State. It's going to be hard-pressed for people to live up to that moniker down there, the Sunshine State. That's also not happening, generally speaking, over the next week or so. I'll show you. So let's get started. First, there's Kirk, really far out here for something this strong this late in the season, and it's going to just get stronger. We have TD13. This will also probably set some kind of a record. The very busy hurricane season, delayed but not denied. Our ACE scores are going to go up. The named storm count's going to go up. And the hurricane days, all those metrics are all going up. And we still have a little bit under 2 months left on the calendar to watch stuff. And, here we go. So expanding it out to the next 7 days, broad area here of development potential. A very complex setup with tropical wave energy, the Central American gyre in there, just a very not easy to figure out kind of pattern. But that is only really talking about the development of a tropical cyclone, a classification of a particular weather feature. Those details don't really matter in this instance. What does matter, this will bring impacts to portions of the Yucatan, first of all, parts of Central America, and then over to Florida. And as we go forward, I will outline it more so you can have a better idea of what to expect across the Sunshine State, mainly the peninsula. All right. So on the interactive track map over at the HurricaneTrack Insider site, which, by the way, all of our new patrons, everybody that signed up during Helene, or if you've been around for a couple months or even a couple years and you weren't aware of it, here it is. And it is really cool. I like bragging about it. So let's first of all, because I said I was not going to ignore the East Pack anymore. I blew it with John there, at least the second coming of John. We talked about John the first time, but it went in, came back out, and I just ignored it. Just forgot about it, literally. Not going to do that again. So we got a TD down here, forecast to become a tropical storm and make landfall well to the south and east of Acapulco here. And that's important because obviously they were heavily impacted by Otis last year, and then John just recently with lots of heavy rain. And so I know that a lot of people are quite nervous about future systems, obviously. So here's our next feature, and it should make landfall here and bring a lot of rainfall to the Oaxaca region. So we got to watch that. Rain is an impact. We can't say that enough. Elsewhere, just looking at the bigger picture here, our systems out in the Atlantic, Kirk forecast to become a solid Category 4, and that'll really rack up those ACE points. And then we're going to have Leslie out here. That's forecast to become a hurricane. So dual hurricanes will be going at the same time, adding several ACE points per day. I keep hammering that because that, folks, is an important metric. Not to the everyday person. They could care, couldn't care less. I think that's the right way to say the phrase. I couldn't care less. It's not I could care less, because that means you could care less. It's I couldn't care less. Most people couldn't care less about ACE. But from a scientific perspective, it is a way to show that the quality of the hurricanes, their intensity is substantial, especially when they are intense like Beryl and last a long time like Beryl. That's when you get those high ACE counts. It's really good for the science to keep a methodology to see how the quality of this year's hurricanes were. What we're lacking, and this is extraordinary, those junk storms that would last 1 or 2 days. That's just a term. Sometimes those junk storms do impact people. But think about it. We have hardly had any of that at all. And what we have had has been impactful, and I think almost all of it pretty much deep tropical development. Isaac was further up in the higher latitudes, but the quality of the season and the part of the forecast that were suggesting that has been spot on. And the other numbers are catching up for those that are and have been kind of besmirching the whole process. Yeah, it was really weird there for about 30 days where not much was happening, but clearly we are making up for that now, and we've seen the impacts, obviously, from Helene. It kind of all speaks for itself, and it's just going to stay busy from here, it does appear. So here it is on the satellite animation. Still some weird glitchy stuff in here. I don't know what's going on, but I'm just glad it works. So here's Kirk. We'll put a K out here for Kirk, and this is TD13, so we'll put a 13 there. And then a little area of convection in the vicinity of the Cayman Islands. More convective activity strung out across the Gulf down to the other Gulf, the Gulf of Tehuantepec, and our TD sitting down here that should become our next tropical storm in that region. Let's get over to the vorticity signature because this really tells the tale. You guys know this. A little bit of vorticity here east of Central America. That is where Helene got started. I've got to go back and look at my videos, a few days before Helene got going just to see how things were running, what I was saying and how it all came together. Kind of a fascinating archive of how everything eventually happened with that big Central American gyre. Well forecast by the models. Once it finally latched on, the model groups that is, we pretty much knew we were going to have something rather negative happening coming up into this area of the Gulf back when Helene got started. This time around, much more murky. You got this energy, some energy in the East Pacific, some of this energy sitting out, even part of it over Mexico itself, and we're many days later. Now we've got some westerly winds coming through, and kind of like the subtropical jet, if you will, more dry air. Things are just different, and that is good, obviously, because we're not going to end up with another Helene situation. It does not look like that at all. Once in a while, one of the global models, or maybe one of the ensemble members, will spit out something that we kind of go, oh, I hope that doesn't happen. But that's the exception rather than the rule right now. We're not seeing unanimous or anything close to it model agreement that something very impactful and consolidated, and that's the key. Nothing consolidated looks like it's happening in that part of the Atlantic Basin. All the consolidated stuff is happening way out here and over here, and again, only shipping and high-altitude aircraft interests that might fly near these systems need to be worried about it and concerned. This is interesting, too. Have not shown in any kind of recent memory at all a satellite shot of Africa. It's just been kind of shut down out here with the weirdness that went on for, like I said, about a month. From August 20th until September 20th, we had very little, and that's a whole other issue. But there is still energy. And, don't mock me or laugh at me, but yes, we do look at energy even all the way over into the eastern parts of Africa. These impulses do move across, and each one of these, Kirk was one of these, and they can be tracked. Their vorticity signatures, these are all your pockets of energy, and they're all going to end up in the Atlantic sooner or later. And it's just a matter of, are conditions favorable where they traverse? And we don't know that more than just a few days out, obviously. But there is still more energy over Africa that we need to be watching as we move through the month of October. And when you couple that with the very warm sea surface temperatures, cannot count how many times I've shown this. Very, very warm. This is roughly 2 degrees Celsius warmer than average. The orange everywhere else is that 1 degree right there. There's 2. So you're looking still at a very warm Gulf of Mexico, and I continue to truly be shocked at the lack of a cold wake anywhere in here to speak of. Maybe the fast movement of Helene once it really got cranking through here. A little bit of a cold wake left right there, but even that chiseled away still leaves us at slightly warmer than average. Point is, except in the East Pacific, and this is absolutely remarkable. Look at that. 2 little specks right there, a few pixels. Everything else is anomalously on the warm side. Just think about that. That is absolutely incredible, and not in a good way. A lot of available energy down there. We have to keep watching. Again, just telling you what I see, folks. Not always going to be the best news in the world, but at least, speaking of some best news, right? Good news anyway. Watch this as I move through the GFS. This is this morning's run, and it finishes up in the early afternoon. But it's initialized right there at 12Z, 850 millibars in the atmosphere, and that helps me to identify all of our little structural areas. There's 1, there's 2, a little piece there, a little piece there. All this stuff up in the high latitudes is not even worth worrying about at all. So let's just scroll this out to the next week and see what happens. All right, so there's 168 hours. Rewind the clock, do it again. You see the movement of our systems out in the open Atlantic going around this portion of the subtropical ridge. By the way, Kirk could get involved with other high latitude weather features and impact parts of the UK. So our United Kingdom contingent, everybody up there, be ready, be aware. Kari and Catherine and Will Woodgate, sorry, mention him by his full name. He's the guy that built the interactive map. But yes, our UK friends and my brother and his family, they live in London. Yeah, we got to watch and see what happens as Kirk rounds the corner there. Yes, this comes in closer to, what is that? That's like France or something in there, isn't it? I think so, because this is the Iberian Peninsula. You think I would know. I'm pretty sure that's the western coast of France, and this would be the UK further up here, Ireland and United Kingdom as a whole, Great Britain. Anyhow, you guys got to be watching for that, because that could be a powerful extratropical feature that gets tangled up with other systems, but that's about a week away. Notice, too, though, at the 168-hour mark, this right here, in fact, let me use green, because green kind of helps us to, we think of green as being moist. That's what most of the models use. That right there, that's all that energy, and that's really important, because notice what it is not. It is not bundled like that. That would be Leslie, all right? So this is all that energy stretched out over hundreds of miles, training across South Florida, where last time I checked, millions of people live, and they will be impacted by potentially days and days of heavy rain. And that can result in lowland flooding, urban flooding, travel problems, airport delays, and it becomes a headache. Okay, so you don't have the surge, you don't have the wind, you don't have the low pressure, but you still have the rain from this tropical connection down here, and we have to pay attention to that and be ready for it and treat it as a potentially big hazard. Speaking of green, you can see it very clearly here on the tropical tidbits. 700 millibar to 300 millibar relative humidity, part of the atmosphere, and you get, like, it's not quite a fire hose, but quite the connection there. Where? Out of the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico and the Bay of Campeche, right across Florida over the next week or so. All right, so we notice that, and this takes us out to day 7. Also notice the whole time, and this I'm going to do in a bright red color, let's just put a rectangle, a little polygon right up through here. That's where the heaviest impacted areas are inland. That's just an absolute nightmare. Watch, it's dry, a little bit of moisture there. This would be this coming Friday, just a little bit. And, some of that orographic lift, there could be some rain, and certainly the weather forecast offices up there, Greenville, Spartanburg, the local TV stations, they're all going to be talking about it. But please just make sure people are aware there could be some rain, but that doesn't look too threatening at all. And boom, some dry air comes back, and that is great to see. However, down south, and you can clearly see it, lots of moisture over the Florida Peninsula, just streaming in day after day after day. So everybody needs to be ready for that. We can see it visualized here very well on the quantitative precipitation forecast through the next 5 days. This is days 1 through 5. Beyond that time frame, you're going to get more of it, and we'll look at that more tomorrow because that's still several days away. Notice just a little bit right up the spine of the Appalachians here. It's not zero, but it is also not very much. Your quantitative precipitation, and if you just look at the overall, this is in inches. So these darker greens still quarter inch or less. That is great to see that it's not more than that, obviously. These colors down here are certainly representing 5, 6, 7, 8 inches and so forth. And we'll look at beyond day 5 tomorrow, because it just makes more sense. Lots of people are on top of this, including our friend down here in Southeast Florida, Adrian. He knows what to look for. The model trends, he says, are concerning. 10-day GFS rainfall totals paint widespread 10 inches of rain plus, 10 plus, across South Florida. And I want to highlight that. We'll use yellow here. South Florida, where, again, millions of people live. This becomes a big problem. You guys know the flood problems down there. You've got to pay attention. You've got to be ready. You got to think about it. You got to think about travel issues. This will be a potential big problem. And I like it, what he said here. This cannot be overstated enough. Rain is a friggin' impact. All right? And a lot of it is coming. And again, I want to point you to, this is trying to help you. Our friends at Quick Dam. Yes, they are a partner, a sponsor, whatever you want to call it. Terrific support over the last year, but they can help you to get ready for just such events. And we have time. The folks in Western North Carolina, there's nothing you can do when an entire mountainside is coming down, or the river's going to rise 6, 7, 8, 10 feet and move at 40 miles per hour. There are some times when we're going to just get beat. But when we see flooding coming, and you're talking about a few inches of water to a foot or two, you can mitigate against it. And this is a great company up in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. Have enjoyed every minute working with these folks, and they can help you. You go to Lowe's, you go to Home Depot, or you just go to their website, and you look at where to buy up here. And if I can get my picture out of the way, and you can get all this info. Look at that. Come on. I mean, go to the Bass Pro Shops and get them. I know they got those down there. And believe me when I tell you, this company can help you to survive financially. You spend a few $100s on this, and you can save potentially tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars of damage, and you can reuse them for a while. Not like sandbags where they turn into toxic bricks, and then you got a big problem on your hands. So give our friends at Quick Dam a follow on social media and check out their website and be ready, all right? Trying to help you here. Again, a really great company that comes in handy for something just like this. Because, yes, we are in an active pattern, and even though we don't have anything consolidated in the western part of the basin, doesn't look like it's going to matter. We're going to have some big impacts down there nevertheless. All right, tomorrow, let's do another YouTube Live in the morning. 9 a.m. Eastern Time, catch up on things, see what's happening. I'll go through the process of what I'm looking at, and we'll just book it, all right? 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, YouTube Live right here, and I'll post about it, of course, in case you forget. But yes, we will do another live update tomorrow, and we will keep watching how this pattern evolves as we continue through the month of October. From all of us at HurricaneTrack, thanks for watching. I'm Mark Sudduth. I'll see you at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning on YouTube Live.